Hello, I'm Dr. Mikey Mewborn, and this is Church Ministry. Today we're looking at the topic Leadership in Organism and Organization. In our last lesson, we focused in on church or leadership as an organism and who are we in Christ Jesus. But today we're going to look at the organizational side of it, and we're going to focus in on the word bureaucracy. I want you to understand that this word bureaucracy has gotten a bad rap for many, many years. But what I want to do is I want to take time today throughout this lesson and give you a better understanding of what it's really about and what does it mean for the church. How do effective executives work within the church, and how do they oversee things? How do they build up the people that need to be built up and of course bring discipline into the workplace? And so those are some of the things we're going to look at today. So it's good to be with you. All right, we'll see you on the other side. God bless you. Hello and welcome to Church Ministry. Today we're looking at Leadership in Organism and Organization, Part 2. This is a great lesson series because it talks a lot about what it means to be a part of Christ Jesus as well as part of an organization, and how do things actually play out in a church. Today we're going to look more into the organization side of things, and I think it's very helpful for us. We're going to talk a lot about the word bureaucratic or bureaucracy. And as we talk about this word, my hope is for you to understand that there might be some things that are very helpful for us with the word, but maybe there's some things that we can improve on and maybe try to be better as an organization. But I want to begin by sharing with you some of the attacks on this word. For instance, look at this picture. You see the fireworks, you see the big screen. It says bureaucracy, erecting a large screen so that you can watch the fireworks in case your view is obstructed by the large screen that was just erected. I think it's funny, that's how people sometimes feel about bureaucracy. It's kind of redundant. It's doing things that you think are helpful, but really sometimes they're a hindrance, or it's extra work for what purpose, and sometimes people feel that way. Another example of that is the idea of somebody working for the government. Look at what it says. What my friends think I do, he's sleeping. What society thinks I do, he's sleeping. What my boss thinks I do, still sleeping. What my parents thinks I do, sleeping. What I think I do and what I really do, he's sleeping the whole time. And this is how the government is looked at, or the bureaucracy in general as far as government is concerned. And so this is more of a negative slant toward that word. And what I want to do throughout this lesson is to see there might be some negatives, but are there some positives? And so we'll look at that as we go. Let's look at the question, what is bureaucracy? Bureaucracy, bureau means writing or work desk. Sometimes it's a government's work desk, something like that. It's a French word, and it helps us to understand a little bit more about that positioning. But then the cracy is a form of government. So you have democracies, bureaucracies. You also have theocracies. God is the form of government, and so that's what you see there. Now, a bureaucracy is often defined as a large and often complex organization, appointed, not elected officials, and system of departments and divisions. So it's broken down into many different things by appointed officials. It's very complex. There's a lot of things that go into it. And because the complexity of it, because of the workload, because of everything that's happening in there, people think that legislation just goes into bureaucracies and it just dies. It goes nowhere because there's so many checks and balances, so many rules that you have to go through. And bureaucracy has just received a bad name over the years because of these types of things. Some key phrases that we'll think about when we're looking at this word, bureaucracy. We think of hierarchy of command. We also think of specialized division of labor, clear lines of authority or rules, and then merit-based decisions. This is important. When you think of an organization getting large, then there has to be certain rules or certain lines of authority that have to be put in place, but that hierarchy has to be in place as well to say who is over who, because people need to know who they report to as well as who do they evaluate. And so These things really matter. Of course, we have to know what each person does, and there has to be job descriptions that are laid out, and so all of that comes into play. You look at this triangle here. You see a person at the top who pours into maybe some executives, and then from there on, we have a lower tier of people, and then that lower tier pours into more of maybe a group of people. Maybe it's the laborers, or maybe the people that are doing processes. They're getting things done that need to be worked through, and so you see a lot of these. You see a lot of these top-down type of pictures, or maybe systems, when you're thinking about bureaucracy. So that's kind of a good picture to look at some of those things. A word about bureaucracy is given by Kenneth Gangle. I want you to see what he had to say about this. It is not bureaucracy that gives us the trouble, but rather the misuse and abuse of bureaucracy to the point that it becomes a hindrance rather than a help. So when things are done incorrectly or abused, it becomes a hindrance. So it's a perversion of what's good. It's kind of what you would see with even how Satan works when it comes to the scriptures. He will pervert them or abuse them. He'll take something really good and pervert it so that it comes back and it's of no value, or it's a hindrance to all of society. And that's what you see here with bureaucracy. He also said it makes the proverbial good servant but bad master. In other words, bureaucracy should work for the people, not the people work for it. That's the whole idea. And if we don't recognize that, and instead we start working for this ideal or this system, then we really don't have any purpose any longer, and that's where you have somebody struggling in what they do. And so that's a great quote there. And then he also said, it is not bureaucracy, but rather a misunderstanding of its inerrant evils, as well as its helpfulness, that leads us astray. And so it's a misunderstanding of it, or what it should be, rather than what people characterize it as. And that's what they do. There are characters made about bureaucrats that are very dark and very hurtful. And so we have to be careful in the way that we look at bureaucracy in general. Here's a slide. Bureaucracy defends the status quo long past the time when the quo has lost its status. So picture here, it's bureaucracy is holding somebody back from becoming something that they should be, or maybe they want to be. It's stifling somebody's desire to go further with what they're trying to do. And so it's one of those types of things, and you can see the diagram to kind of point to that picture. So now let's look at bureaucracy and professional view of work. Administrators in a college or seminary are more bureaucratic because they tend to serve the organization as a whole. Faculty members are often more professional, serving their academic disciplines. Now, this is interesting when you think about this. In a college or a seminary setting or something like that, you usually have two types of people that are serving in the school. You have the people who are your teachers, your faculty members, instructors, professors, and that's faculty members in general. What they're doing is they're serving based on their disciplines, their professionalism. They're pouring into those things that they have worked so hard to do, and then they're using their gifts to teach and what they're doing. So it's kind of rewarding them in some ways, and the focus is what am I bringing to the table? The administrator or administrators are usually more bureaucratic because they're tending to serve the organization as a whole. In other words, how can we help the whole organization as I am a representative of it? And so it's important to see this. And so there's an idea of saying, well, can the faculty member also feel this way? Absolutely. They can take on this understanding that I'm a part of something bigger, the bigger picture. So my question would be, why not accomplish both? And that would also be Gangle's comment on that as well, or question for that. An example of that is if a Christian serve Christ overall, Serve Christ overall. Don't don't pull away. Yes, you're going to be serving people. Yes, you're going to be serving the church. You're going to be doing all those kinds of things, but serve Christ above all. And that will be your focus. And in that, you'll bring service to other people, because everything we do in this life should be working toward the whole. And what is that? Christ and what he has, as he is the head of the church and he is the head of the body. Okay? Now, if we think about bureaucracy and effectiveness, I want to talk a little bit about effective executives. And so number one here, we have effective executives know where their time goes. So they know what's happening. They can see the big picture. They know what's important for them to do. They know what they need to be doing, how long they need to be doing. They know what all is taking place and how important time really is. Number two, effective executives focus on outward contribution. So what is being produced? What's going outward? What are we creating? What is happening through all that we're doing? Number three, effective executives build on strengths. They build on the things that really matter. For instance, if you have somebody in an organization that has strengths in a certain area, will help strengthen those. And then if they don't do so well in another area, don't have them overseeing that, but pull them out of that, use them where their strengths are being used, and build up those strengths, and that's when you have a great organization. And then number four, effective executives concentrate on the few major areas where superior performance will produce outstanding results. And so they're going to hone in on these things that they do extremely well. Number five, effective executives make effective decisions. So the people that are the most efficient, the most productive, the most creative, the best visionaries out there, those people are going to make great decisions. Because if you really think about it, great leaders make great decisions. That's kind of what makes them great. That's what makes them effective. That's what makes them an influencer or somebody that somebody else wants to follow. I came across this little cartoon, Bureaucrat Man, swooping in to save the day with yet another piece of legislation. It's this idea that there's this superhero that he's coming in and he's going to fix the problem with yet one more piece of legislation. And so it's kind of a slam on bureaucracy, as well as, hey, this might be our answer to the problem. And so that's kind of funny when we look at it. Bureaucracy and a Christian view of society. I think this is a really good slide for us to kind of pull it all together. In large bureaucratic organizations, the focus tends to move toward products and not people. This is the possible struggle or the issues that can pop up within a big or large, complex organization. You tend to focus in more toward on the product and not the people, and you miss the big picture. And that's a big issue when we're talking about how organizations should be run. In some cases, individuality is stifled by the desire for productivity. You might have somebody that's on the team, or you might have somebody that's a part of the organization, and their strength is to create things, but you're still wanting to hold on to another thing, and you don't want them to put their efforts into that because it might pull down the organization. Or you see that there is what you're kind of like the wave that you're riding on that seems so good with what you're doing. It seems, why would we change that? And so the idea here is of creativity and individuality. It can be stifled sometimes because people don't want change. That change is going to cause the system to go into chaos. And you see that with churches sometimes, and church ministry and nonprofit organizations. Also, efficiency and productivity quickly become the goal of entire organizations. This is a huge struggle. What some organizations do, some churches do, is we say, okay, Are we producing these things? Are we getting more and more efficient in these areas? And what happens is that people that make up the church, people that make up organizations, people that make up nonprofits, people that do those types of things, they fall through the cracks because they're not as important as the bottom line. And so the bottom line says we're productive, and the bottom line says we're becoming efficient. So what does it matter? Why do these people really matter? That's dangerous, because in the church world, if you lose focus on people, or this high level of focus on what God has told us to have focus on is on people, to love God and love people, then we've truly missed it. And the character and connectivity of people becomes less important. And that is devastating to any church, organization, nonprofit. It really hurts everybody. So the character and connectivity of people become less important when you start focusing on these other things. And so it's vital for the church minister. It's vital for the Christian layperson who's serving and volunteering. It is vital for the person who works in a nonprofit organization to see that, yes, we want to be productive. Yes, we want to be efficient. Yes, we want to get things out that we're trying to get out. But at what cost? And the cost can never be people. We must find a way to better serve them, to be efficient, to be productive in how we serve them, because truly the business of the church, in essence, is people. The business of the church is ultimately glorifying God by loving Him and loving people. And so these are some things that I want us to focus on as we think of the idea of leadership in organism and organization. It's been so good to be with you today. I hope this has helped clarify some things that maybe you were uncertain about, but bureaucracy is not all that bad. It just is abused too often. And so what you have to do is figure out what is the balance. And I hope this has helped you do that. All right. It's good to be with you today. I hope you have a great rest of the day. God bless you. Bye-bye. All right, I hope you've enjoyed our lesson today, focusing in on leadership in organism and organization. It's been good to be with you. I hope you learned some things today, kind of focusing in on these concepts that are helpful for all of us. The word bureaucracy is not all that bad, as you can see. Actually, it's something that can be very helpful for people if they understand how it works. And so as we think about this within the church world and organizing different things within the church world or church ministry or even a nonprofit organization, it's helpful to us that we don't just do things redundantly, but we do things with purpose and we're intentional about them, okay? All right, it's good to be with you. I hope you have a great rest of the day. God bless you. Bye-bye.